So this is a quick video on the basics of SPSS. When you first open IBM SPSS, you get this kind of screen where you can do things like open new files or new queries. There's like an AI output assistance and help and support and whatnot. Usually I close this box and I work out of this main screen, which if you notice, this looks a whole lot like an Excel spreadsheet. Right, which that's what it is. There's 3 tabs here on the bottom. There is an overview, which isn't very helpful, a data view, which this usually has each individual case. So if one person took this survey, for example, it would have all of the answers of that one person here in this row. And each column would be a different variable. I'm going to show you what I mean in a minute. Variable view over here will have each of the different variables with some details about them. So that's what makes this a little bit different than an Excel spreadsheet. And then in Excel, you don't have this kind of level of information about each of them. So it's kind of hard to see this without a real data set. So I'm going to open a data set. So I'm going to go File, Open. I can also create like it's a new data, right? And there's a couple of different kinds of files here. There's a data, there's like internet data, syntax, and output. We're mostly going to work with data and output. Output is the thing that is kind of generated when we run analysis, and we can save that as a separate file. We're not going to do that today, but we're going to open data. And I'm going to open it from, in some of my downloads, I have this data set from Pew. So it's going to take a second to open it. And this is, again, if we look down here, this is the variable view, which means it's telling me the details about each variable. Over here, it has the name. If you notice, all of the names are just one word. If there's no like real empty spaces in those words, it tends to be pretty short. It can sometimes be kind of related to what the question is like. So this one's about happy, and the question is generally, how happy are you with your life these days, right? So Pew tends to put the entire question in the label. Right? So we have this sort of name, the short name for this. We have the label, which usually tells us, if we expand this, all about kind of like what kinds of things they asked about. And if you notice some of these, like, do you favor or oppose allowing gays and lesbians to legally marry? What statement about the Earth's temperature comes closest to your view? It has, like, all kinds of different things. So this is the question that was asked in the label. Over here in the values is where we see kind of what the possible answers would be. So this is part of your homework for today. So generally, how happy are you with your life these days? Are you... I click on this little button here. It says very happy, pretty happy, not too happy, and 99 is usually like don't know or refused. So SPSS usually just keeps track of this based on numbers. It likes numbers the most, right? But this label helps us understand when we like make a pie chart out of this or whatever, like what each of those numbers means. This is the people who said very happy, pretty happy, not too happy. Something kind of tricky about Pew is that this 99 is actually people who are missing from this data set. And if you notice, this is the missing column. This is where you tell it, like, this is the data that's missing. So sometimes we have to go over and we have to say, hey, Pew, by the way, 99 means that person is actually missing. So we could go through and look at this for all of these. Like, would you say your family life is excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor? And these are the kind of the answers, right? Excellent, very good, good, fair, or poor. If you notice, some of them don't have any values. So this is like year in which the survey was completed. It says none. This is because it's using real numbers. Right? So if we double click on this over here, it'll take us to the column that this variable is in, so 2. And if you notice, it says like 2023 or 2024. So we don't need any special labels for that. It means exactly what it is, which is 2023 or 2024, right? So I don't need to worry about that one so much. But almost all of these other things, there were like clear answers. There was like a yes or a no. You can kind of skim through them and kind of look at what all of the different, options are, kind of how the survey was asked and answered. So if you notice there's some like ranked weight at the bottom, we may not need that for this particular analysis. So you can kind of go through and kind of look at the data. You get a feel for what kinds of questions were asked. If you look over on the data view, each of these is one person's. This is how one person, this is their participant ID, which is like a unique number for that person. This is like the region. There's like all of these different, currently this doesn't have anything in it. This might be because this data is, they took out some of the like confidential information out of it, right? So there's like nothing in this column. All of the other ones, it says like, there's a 2 here and a 2 there, and that means like very happy, or it means yes, I'm happy things are changing, or whatever the meanings of those are. You can see some of these 99s, that means that data is missing. There's sometimes other numbers they use. Sometimes they use like an 8, or they use like a -1. Or in this case, it looks like, I'm guessing the 77 is missing over there, right? And sometimes it's just a question that wasn't answered because it wasn't kind of relevant. Like maybe this is a follow-up question if they do have children, for example, about how many that they have.